Hi everyone, this is Constellations here. So I finally have the weapon math video ready for Kokomi main DPS. We are going to do a weapon comparison for these 6 weapons here. Thank you everyone for giving your feedback on the community post that I made regarding which weapon you wanted to see in the comparison. Before I go further, I just want to say that I've already included all the weapons that were suggested other than Dodoco Teals. And the reason why is because I'm not that, how should I put it, I'm not that confident that a normal and charge attack rotation is the best DPS output on Kokomi, because she does not have any stamina reduction on her any of those mechanics on her charge attack. Unlike characters like Yanfei, Ningguan, all of them have some form of stamina reduction for their charge attacks, which makes the whole rotation very nice, very synergistic. And you gotta know that Catalyst uses charge attack is a whopping 50 stamina cost, which means your 240 stamina, and if I include the regeneration time, you are still able to do 5 charge attacks in say 10 seconds, but by the time you finish that, you are out of stamina for the rest of your characters. It's not that great, honestly speaking. You can argue that you don't need to dodge because you get healing, but you end up with no stamina for your other team members, which is not that great, honestly speaking. And if you don't use a shield, when you don't have resistance reduction, interaction resistance, you're gonna lose DPS because you get hit, you are knocked off, you're flying backwards, you're not doing the DPS. So I'm not 100% confident that that's the best way to go, so I don't want to include that in this video, in the comparison. I may be wrong. Maybe when the Kokomi is out, people really show that her doing normal attacks together with her charge attacks rotating between the two is the best DPS option, and stamina consumption is not that bad of an issue. Then yes, I will stand corrected. No worries, I don't need to be correct all the time. But for the purpose of my weapon comparison, I will not include the Dodoco Teals because I'm not doing normal and charge attack rotations in my calculations as well. Okay, so I hope that is clear to you guys in terms of like my thought process on why I'm not including Dodoco Teals. Okay, I mean, if you have used someone like Yanfei without her stamina reduction, it's extremely irritating and you run out of stamina really fast, especially if you are in a domain where there's cryo effect, the ley line disorder, where you lose stamina. Oh, it's a pain to play that. Okay, it's a pain to go through that. So yeah, not my cup of tea. Anyway, that's the intro. I'm sorry the intro is a bit long, but I wanted to just quickly talk about the playstyle for Dodoco Teals and why I'm not including it. Now let's talk about the weapons that we have here. We have 3 4-star weapons that are craftable, okay, and 1 3-star weapon. And then we have Skyward Atlas, obviously, because this is the next 5-star weapon that I think is worthwhile to compare. I think Memories of Dust, most people will not have it, so I don't think I really need to talk about it. So these are the figures. Okay, so we are only looking at her burst here because her burst release is majority of where her damage is. So I have a level 9 burst. I did include the elemental skill during her burst, so those figures are there as well. So level 9, 999, and here we have 9912. Okay, 9912 is here. Something is off with my formatting here. But anyway, it's a level 12 burst here with level 9 normal attack. Okay. So that being said, these are the figures, and not to worry, when I go through each weapon in detail, we will expand and show the percentage difference. And how to read this basically is very straightforward. When you see a column says that's titled Everlasting Versus, it's versus the weapon, that leftmost weapon nearest to it. Sorry, not leftmost, the left weapon nearest to it. So this is Everlasting versus Skyward. Everlasting is 9.8% better than Skyward Pride on the burst initial hit, and 9.1% better than Skyward Pride on the normal attack cycle. Okay, that's how you read this. And so on and so forth, including for elemental skill, including for heals even. Okay. Likewise, the next weapon, Prototype Ember, we have Everlasting versus Prototype Ember and Skyward Atlas versus Prototype Ember. That's how that works. Okay. So first off, let me just go talk about the very first two weapons, the 5-star weapons in this comparison, which is Everlasting Moonglow versus Skyward Atlas. Now you notice something different is that I did not go to talk about the individual weapon section this time around, because I think, how should I put it, most people will be more interested in the weapon comparison, so I decided to skip that entire section itself rather than putting it in the video. If anyone is interested, let me know. I can answer specific questions to that. But in these individual sections, when we do the analysis for the weapon, I covered most of what I wanted to say. For just to take note, right? For the constellations as well as the artifacts, there's not much difference between these weapons. Some of these weapons, those weapons with lower normal attack, the C1 will be an even bigger percentage increase, since C1 is a flat increase damage, more or less flat, because it's a fixed 30% based on your max HP. Okay, and as for the artifacts, the HP/Hydro/Healing bonus is still the best DPS option. Okay, no difference between all of these weapons. I already done the math for it. I'm just showing it in the math in the video here. It's all the same. Okay, throughout all these 6 weapons, HP/Hydro/Healing bonus is the best main stats to go for on a 4-piece Heart of Death. Okay, I'll do artifact comparison in future. But for 4-piece Heart of Death, this is the best artifact combination, the main stats, and these are what all the figures here are based off. Okay, so that explains the weapons portion, the analysis portion. Now let's talk about the specific weapon. So Skyward has slightly higher attack on Kokomi's elemental skill, it's about 3 to 8%, but it loses out the burst normal attacks even with the Skyward Procs factor in. So Skyward Proc factor, is a bit tricky to calculate, but basically in the first 2 hits, we are assuming that there's one hit of the Skyward Proc. So that is factored in the damage figure here for Skyward Atlas. Why I say it's tricky is because although the first cycle is 2 seconds, we get 1 hit, but in 10 seconds, instead of getting 5 hits on the Skyward Proc, you actually only get 4 hits. Yeah, because it takes longer than 2 seconds for between each Skyward Proc. That's the gist of it. And Skyward Atlas procs actually suffer here because Kokomi can't crit. Because the Skyward Atlas procs can actually crit, but Kokomi can't crit. So this can't crit as well, the Skyward procs. So yep, that's that. So 9 to 12% here refers to this portion, 9 to 12%. So we are talking about level 9 burst R1 versus level 12 burst R1 as well, and C6. Okay, you'll see the difference is not that great for C6. I mentioned before that C6 is nice, but honestly not that great and too conditional. But if you want to know more about the constellations and the artifacts in detail, you can check out my first math video on the Kokomi main DPS guide. After this video, the next video I'll do will be the Kokomi support weapon comparison, but I'll talk more about that later at the end of this video. So first off, or rather to continue on for Skyward Atlas, the difference pulls the hit at R5 versus R5, with Everlasting Moonglow performing better at R5. It's about 12 to 18%, and also at higher burst levels. So 12% is at the level 9, burst level 9. 18% is at burst level 12, which requires C3. Okay, that's the difference. So heals wise, Everlasting also does better than Skyward Atlas. It's 22 to 30% better. Now I know this percentage figure looks big, but note that the heal figure is actually low. It's 3.5k versus 2.9k in 2 seconds from her normal attacks. So 600 heal figure in 2 seconds, not that significant, I think. Okay, so value comparison wise, the TLDR here is if you already have Skyward Atlas, you don't really need to spend on getting Everlasting. You go for Everlasting if you want to pursue highest damage possible, regardless of cost. But otherwise, if you want to talk about value, if you have a Skyward Atlas, you're better off just building a Skyward Atlas, because the damage difference is only 9 to 12% on the burst normal attacks. And Skyward actually does better on the elemental skill. So that's that. That's that, right? So yeah, this is the conclusion for Skyward Atlas. Now let's talk about Prototype Ember. I have the figures here. You'll see that in some cases, Skyward actually does worse than Prototype, specifically the burst initial hit. But for the normal attack, Skyward is only slightly better than Prototype Ember. Only slightly. Okay, at C0 is 6.3%, at C1 is 2.5%. Of course, we are comparing R5. We are comparing R5 Skyward Atlas here. Sorry, R1 Skyward Atlas here. Sorry, made a mistake. R1 Skyward Atlas versus R1 to 5 Prototype Ember. At R5, we are talking about 16 and 11%. Okay, so let's do this. By the way, this 16 and 11 is for the R5. I made a slight mistake here, I think. Yeah, this should be 12. Okay, so for 4-star craftable weapon, Prototype Ember performs pretty well, only falling behind R1 Everlasting by 12 to 16%. R5 by about 21 to 32%. Just double check, did I really look at the right figures? So 16 and 12 here, and 3 and 20. Yeah, this is correct. So Prototype Ember performs really well, in my opinion. It's just 12 to 16% behind the signature weapon Everlasting Moonglow. For reference, R5 The Catch, which is widely accepted as a great 4-star weapon, is only 27% behind R1 Engulfing, 58% behind R5 Engulfing. So 27% versus 12 to 16%. 16 is at C0, 12 is at C1. And then you have 32 and 21. Do you see the difference here? Prototype Ember is actually even better than the Catch in a relative comparison for Kokomi. The important word here is relative comparison, meaning it's only applicable for Kokomi, it's only applicable for her signature weapon in comparison. Okay, so Prototype Ember is even better than the Catch in a relative comparison here. And in heals wise, looking at the normal attack heals alone, Prototype Ember is the second best among all these weapons. If we factor in the weapon effect, it will likely heal even more. I have not done the math for Prototype Ember's weapon effect heal, because even without it, I think the heals should already be plenty enough. It's a bit overkill. It's more like for clutch healing. That's what I would call it. Like for example, if one of your character drops to 2 HP, 1 HP, that kind of scenario. Okay. So as burst level increases, difference is smaller since Prototype Ember's HP buff is only slightly lower than Everlasting, compared to say Skyward Atlas. And since it regenerates about 12 to 18 energy from its weapon effect, coupled with Raiden Shogun, it will likely be almost 100% uptime on burst, so this is another very nice thing about Prototype Ember. In fact, if you have C6 Raiden, together with this weapon, and maybe C4 Kokomi is required, maybe not, you might be able to do it such that there's only 3-second downtime if you have C6 Raiden. There's only 3-second downtime on Kokomi's burst, which is very crazy if you think about it. 3 seconds is sufficient time for you to switch between characters, cast their stuff, go back, and then use Kokomi's burst again. Well, that's pretty crazy. I do have C6 Raiden, so I'll probably try to test that out as well. I happen to have a crafted Prototype Ember at level 1. Also, it was a newbie mistake back when I just started this game, before I even started wheeling for it. So anyway, that's the energy restoration factor about Prototype Ember. So I'll say Prototype Ember is easily the best 4-star weapon for Kokomi, but let's look at it more in the F2P weapon comparison below. Okay, the F2P weapon conclusion that we have here. Next up, we have the Trillion Tales of Dragon Slayer. So Trillion Tales of Dragon Slayer for 3-star weapon, this weapon is insanely good for Kokomi. Why? Because it outperforms R1 Hakushin and R1 Mappa Mare, and it's only 3% behind Prototype Ember. So let me show you guys what I mean. Do you see this? 38750 at C1 R1. It does better than this. It does better than this. 3-star weapon doing better than 4-star weapon. If you look at C0, it does better than Hakushin Ring, and it's only ever so slightly lower than Mappa Mare at R1. That's crazy, right? I mean, we're talking about 3-star weapon here. Not to mention its effect allows it to buff teammate too. So that's the hybrid role that I want to talk about. Allows Kokomi to take on a hybrid role to offer 48% attack buff. To offer 48% attack buff to one party member. As for the elemental skill damage wise, it does lose out slightly to Hakushin and Mappa Mare due to the elemental damage bonuses offered by these two weapons. Okay, so you notice that because I did not go into the individual weapon section, I did not really go into showing you guys the weapon effect and what it does. Okay, let me know in the comments in future if you still prefer to have the individual sections, then I'll do that. But either way, this is what I wanted to talk about. I'm trying something new here where we don't talk about the individual sections, we just talk about the weapon comparison. Okay, so heals wise, the TTODS also performs better than Hakushin and Mappa Mare thanks to its HP substat. It's actually only 2% behind Prototype Ember on its heal. So yeah, this is what I was talking about. It's only about 2% behind. Right. Whether it's level 12 or level 9 burst, it's only about 2% behind. It's very nice. And it's only about 3% behind Prototype Ember for the burst normal attacks. Only 3%. And about 4 to 5% behind on elemental skill damage. That's crazy. It's a 3-star weapon. Everyone will have R5 of this if you bother to save it and not use it for upgrading weapons. Even my F2P's semi-neglected account has it as well. Okay. So TLDR, if you are unlucky with Catalyst billets, this weapon is a very good alternative. Okay, TTODS is a very good alternative. Now let's look at Hakushin Ring. Poor Hakushin is worse off than TTODS in all scenarios except C0 and C1R5 Hakushin. Oh my god, right? So you have a Hakushin here. This is what I'm talking about, where C0 and C1R5 Hakushin does better. So let me just minimize the rest and just show you guys. The Hakushin Ring. So this is what I was talking about. This is the only scenario where TTODS is worse off than the Hakushin Ring, and it's only worse off by about 1 to 2%. At R1, TTODS is better than Hakushin Ring by about 2 to 3%. It's pretty bad for a 4-star weapon. And by the way, Hakushin is very restrictive. It requires you to be an Electro Charge Comp, because you're using it for Kokomi and it requires an Electro reaction, right? So Electro Charge Comp, and you need an Electro off-field application for its weapon effect, and so that you can keep proccing it on Kokomi. So the Hakushin's damage bonus, however, has an advantage that can be applied to the whole party. It's a 10% elemental damage bonus for the 2 elements involved in the Electro reaction, so the whole party. Oh, sorry, to the characters whose element is of the type of the 2 elements involved in the reaction. But it lasts only 6 seconds, and it can't be proc off you. So this requires you to be very careful of the rotation speed, and it works better in quick sword comp. What this means is that basically, imagine if you are using Kokomi, Sarah, and Raiden. What will happen when you are trying to get this damage buff to Raiden? Let's say you are finished with your Kokomi's main DPS burst duration. you switch to Sarah to cast the attack buff for Raiden, and then you cast Raiden's Burst. By then, the Raiden's Burst will still enjoy this buff, but her normal attacks likely wouldn't. That's the problem. So when you say working better in quick swap comp means that it's those kind of comp where you really swap someone in and cast their burst and you swap out. That's the only way. And ironically, this damage bonus does not work on electro-related reactions as well, because electro-related reactions are all transformative reactions that are based on EM and level. They don't benefit from damage bonus. So the entire design of Hakushin Ring is very anti-synergistic. It's very weird. So TLDR, in order for Hakushin to almost meet 3-star TTOTS damage during bursts, there are restrictive constraints as above. Sorry, I just want to scroll up and just double check something. Okay, I've already showed this portion. Okay. Heals wise, yeah. So heals is the one that I wanted to talk about, where TTODS also heals about 10% more. And Hakushin Ring. This pro Hakushin Ring is really not performing well. Okay, so if you don't already have a Hakushin Ring crafted, you don't really need to craft one, unless you want the 20% ally damage party buff. But bear in mind, 6 seconds and come Proc of you. So in my personal opinion, it's not worth it. It will be different if this effect can be Proc off field. It will be very different, in fact. It will make it a very good support weapon. But it doesn't. So GG for this weapon really. Right, now next, Mappa Mare. Okay, let me talk about Mappa Mare. Mappa Mare is actually pretty decent on the damage. So you see here that for Mappa Mare, if you look at the normal attacks, at R1, it only loses to Prototype Amber and obviously the 5-star weapons. It still performs better, or more or less on par with TTODS, performs better than Hakushin Ring. Okay, if you don't know what is Mappa Mare's effect, basically at R1, if you trigger an elemental reaction, you get 8% damage bonus, elemental damage bonus. You can get 2 sets, maximum 2 sets, which means 16%. And at R5 that's doubled, so 32% at 2 stats. Okay, so that's what Mappa Mare does. And this is the type of percentage change differences. So you see that basically, for Mappa Mare, R1 Mappa Mare is barely on par with TTODS, but R5 Mappa Mare actually does more damage than Prototype Amber at C0 and C1. It is 3 and 4% respectively. Let me show you guys. So this is Mappa Mare, this is Prototype Amber, and this is what I was talking about. At R5, it's about 4%. At R1, it's about 3%. Okay, so Prototype Amber is better than Mappa Mare at R1. If you have R5 Mappa Mare, then you will perform better than Prototype Amber. Okay, that's important to note. You need high refinement on Mappa Mare for it to perform better than Prototype Amber at C0 and C1. But when your burst level increases at C3+, which is burst level 12, Mappa Mare will do less damage than Prototype Amber. About 5 and 6% lesser. Again, because you gain, when burst level increases, your max HP matters more. And that's why Prototype Amber will end up doing better. R1 Prototype Amber will end up doing better damage than an R5 Mappa Mare. Okay? So, if you are already willing to spend on Kokomi Constellations, Mappa Mare, even an R5 Mappa Mare will do less damage than a R1 Prototype Amber. Okay, so Mappa Mare does not work off field, but since it lasts 10 seconds, it's not too bad. And if Electro Charge is comp is not used, it will take much longer. Okay, I shouldn't say much longer. It will take longer to get the 2 stats, something like 1 second versus 2 seconds, right? I assume that the initial burst causes a reaction, and then the elemental skill does a reaction, so that's 2 seconds. If you use Electro Charge, it's simply based on the Electro Charge ticks, which will happen much faster, which is about 1 second, which is about the time it takes for you to cast your burst. Okay, I mean, just a small point, but yeah, just a point to note. Obviously, in my math, I already assumed that is the electric charge com is one sec, so your 3 hits already assume that you have 2 stats of Mappa Mare here. So TLDR, Mappa Mare, R5 Mappa Mare at C0 will outperform R1 to R5 prototype Ember DPS wise, 3 to 4% better, but heals are naturally worse off than prototype Ember and TTODS. And if you go C3 plus, R5 Mappa Mare will be worse than prototype Ember. Prototype Ember will be better at C3 plus. Okay, so we have finished talking about the individual weapons analysis. Now let's look at the almost final portion, which is the F2P Weapon Conclusion. Because in the very first point I already talked about Everlasting versus Skyward, so that covers the 5-star weapon. Now we have the F2P Weapon Conclusion. We have 3 craftable 4 stars versus 1 3-star weapon here. So if you are unlucky with Catalyst billets and you want your Kokomi to provide a substantial 48% attack buff, TTODS will do beautifully. And not to mention it's much cheaper to level, by the way. It's much cheaper to level TTODS. And get the R5 TTODS as well. And if you don't already have one, I think you should really do it because the 48% attack buff is also very helpful. If you saw some of those YouTube videos where people try to get like 1 million burst damage, right? Some of those videos actually use the 48% attack buff from TTODS. Okay, so that's how good it is as a damage amplification. So which weapon to craft of the 3? Because we already established that if you don't have billets, then you use. If you don't have billets and you want a 48% attack buff, then you use TTODS. If not, if you have 5 catalyst billets, you're not going for Kokomi C1 or above. You want the highest damage than possible. You don't mind lower heals, then you go for R5 Mappa Mare. So let me repeat that. If you have 5 billets, you are not going to go Kokomi C3. In fact, I shouldn't say beyond C1. I should say you're not getting Kokomi C3 for the level 12 burst. You want the highest damage possible. You don't mind lower heals. Then you go for R5 Mappa Mare. That's A. Now B, if you want your Kokomi to also provide 6 seconds elemental damage party buff, while having even lower damage than TTODS, you can craft Hakushin Ring. But I really don't recommend it. Okay? And the most important one, C. Now, if the 2 conditions above don't apply to you, okay, wait, let me just change the music. Okay, sorry. If the 2 conditions above don't apply to you, you want to have 100% burst uptime without getting too much ER. By the way, all my artifact permutations, right, all of the calculations here for the figures, assume that you do have at least 1 base ER roll per artifact. So that amounts up to about, on average, about 28% ER. Okay, so you will have 128% ER. If you want 100% burst uptime, you probably will need more than that. Okay, so if you want to have 100% burst uptime without getting too much ER, and also having the best heals for 4-star F2P weapon, go for Prototype Ember. Okay, do you realize that Prototype Ember basically is, let me put it this way, it's the best, most well-rounded weapon for F2P. Because you don't even need R5, you only need R1. One R1 Prototype Ember should be good enough. Why? Because R5 gives you an additional 6 energy and 6% HP heal across all the party members. I don't feel like it's worth it, unless that 6 energy happens to be what you need for 100% burst uptime. But it's hard to say without testing it out. So I would say craft a R1 Prototype Ember, use it for a couple of weeks before you decide whether or not to invest further in the refinements. Another way to look at this is that most weapon refinements provide double the benefits going from R1 to R5. Look, Mappa Mare is a very good example. You go from 16% to 32% elemental damage bonus. Hakushin Ring, you go from 10% to 20% damage bonus. TTODS, you go from 24% attack buff to 48% attack buff. But for, okay, I can go further. Even these two are the same. Not exactly the same for Everlasting. There's a slight difference for the normal attack. And the thing is, Prototype Ember is the only one where you're going to get a 50% boost. You go from 12 to 18. So that's like a 50, right? 50% boost. As opposed to all of these other weapons. So that's why I say just craft a R1 Prototype Ember, you're good to go. Use it for a couple of weeks, then you decide whether you want to invest further in refinements. You honestly don't need to. In my personal opinion, really, you don't need to. I personally don't think I have up to 5 Catalyst billets. Yeah, a bit unlucky. Catalyst and Bow billets are the ones where I have less than 5. The rest I have more than 5. So, I mean, it's RNG. What can you do? So that would be my conclusion for these 4 weapons. What to do with them? What kind of scenarios you want to craft either one of them? What scenarios to go for each of them? Now, I want to talk about my personal choice. If I'm going to build Kokomi main as a typical HP main DPS, which weapon will I choose out of the 6? But before I share what's my personal choice, bear in mind, I've already provided the figures objectively for your comparison and reference, as well as my own analysis for your own decision making. I don't want my bias to affect you. I don't want my opinion to affect you. I'm just sharing what is my own personal choice. Okay? You can make the decision based on the figures that you see here, as well as all the different percentages. Alright? Okay, so first off, for me personally, her signature weapon is really underwhelming. Unless MiHoYo designed it to be multiplicative, which would then make it too broken for all Catalyst users, not just Kokomi. So there's a very big problem with this. There's a big problem with Everlasting Moonglow. It's either too underwhelming or too OP. I don't know which direction it will go, but it feels like it will go on the underwhelming direction, not the OP direction. That's the feeling that I get for it. Because if it goes the OP direction, all Catalyst users receive a huge buff. This will become the BIS weapon for every single Catalyst user. Trust me. That damage multiplication is just way too high. And I'm not risking the weapon banner pulls for character whose main DPS I'm not impressed with. I'm sorry to all the Cocopium, the people with a lot of Cocopiums, because I'm just not impressed with the figures I have calculated so far. And also because I think support is actually where she excels. And it's going to be my preferred way to build her as a support. And this weapon, Everlasting Moonglow, is not really designed as a support weapon. This entire interaction is really for the main DPS. So, I mean, it does increase healing bonus, but the other part of it is really about her main DPS. So it feels more like a main DPS weapon rather than support weapon. And not to mention, at C0, the Everlasting Moonglow is only 16% better than a craftable weapon. Okay, a craftable weapon, not even a 4-star gacha weapon. And it's at 11% at C1. Sorry, it's at 12%. Yeah, 12% at C1. 12% better at C1. So if I'm going to use Kokomi as a main for the typical HP build, I will use Prototype Ember. Or I might use Skyward Atlas. I do have a R5 Skyward Atlas that I forgot which character is using. I'm always cycling through between Ningguang, Klee, and Yanfei for my Skyward Atlas. So I forget which weapon is using it, which character is using it right now. But I can test it out when we do get Kokomi. I can test out R5 Skyward Atlas. So we have Skyward Atlas, we have Prototype, and TTODS. So these 3 weapons I will test out when Kokomi goes live. Okay. So yeah, so this is my personal choice. I'll probably get a C0 Kokomi with a Prototype Ember, just to test out the main TPS, but I would build her as a support. So an additional note, right, I just want to say, although I'm not impressed with her main TPS potential, I have to say she's really very F2P friendly, since 4-star craftable weapons perform so well for her. Even a 3-star weapon like TTODS performs very well for her. And her Constellations also do not provide reliable damage increase beyond C1, which is bad for wheels, but good for F2P players, right? So if you don't already have a top tier DPS, or you just started playing Genshin recently, she's actually a good easy main DPS to build while providing healing. but just don't expect top tier DPS. Okay. In fact, I'm sure she will do well in my F2P sub account because I don't have Gan Yu, Hu Tao, Xiao, etc. on my F2P sub account. The only top tier DPS I have is Ayaka on that account. Yeah. So anyway, that's that. So I just want to say that the Kokomi is very F2P friendly. She's a breath of fresh air for F2P players in the sense that it's easier to build her artifacts, it's easier to do her weapons. Okay, without losing out too much on damage. But if I were to compare her with top tier DPS, then yeah, she's not there. I'm sorry to the Kokomi sims, but this is just based on what I have calculated. You guys are free to make the judgment based on the figures. Alright? So anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Can you imagine I have skipped the individual sections of the weapons and this video is still 30 plus minutes long. Okay. So anyway, thanks, oh sorry, I already said that. So if you like the content, remember to like the video and click subscribe for more. Next video, we will do the weapon comparison for Kokomi support build. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted because of my crying baby. We will do the Kokomi support build, weapon comparison, and after that we will do artifact comparison. In fact, you can check out one of my community posts. I already posted what is the release schedule for all the different Kokomi math videos. Alright, so be sure to check that out. And once again, thanks everyone for watching. Bye.